Hey crafters, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're diving into some basic C++ for loop programs. Whether you're a beginner or just brushing up on your coding skills, these examples will help you understand the fundamentals of loops in C++. Let's get started. Our first program is a simple one that prints numbers from 1 to 10 using a for loop. #include iostream. This is a preprocessor directive that tells the compiler to include the standard input-output stream library iostream. The iostream library is necessary to perform input and output operations, example reading input from the user or printing output to the screen. Using namespace std. This line tells the compiler to use the std namespace, which contains the standard C++ library's components. The std namespace includes functions like cout, cin, and other standard components. The main function is the entry point of the program. Every C++ program must have a main function, and execution starts from here when the program is run. Return type of int indicates that the function returns an integer, typically used to indicate the program's exit status. A return value of 0 usually means the program executed successfully. Function body, everything inside the braces is the body of the main function, where the actual program logic resides. This is a for loop that iterates from 1 to 10 and performs the code inside the curly braces each time. Let's break down the components of this loop. Initialization, int I equals 1. This initializes the loop counter variable I to 1. This is the starting value of I when the loop begins. Condition, I is less than or equal to 10. This is the condition that is checked before each iteration of the loop. The loop will keep running as long as I is less than or equal to 10. If I becomes greater than 10, the loop will stop. Increment, I++. This part increments I by 1 after each iteration of the loop. I++ is shorthand for I equals I plus 1. So, after the first iteration, I will become 2, after the second, it will become 3, and so on. The loop continues until I becomes 11, at which point the condition I equals 10 becomes false, and the loop exits. Cout I. This line inside the loop prints the current value of I followed by a space. Cout, this is an object of the oStream class used to display output to the screen. Return 0. This statement indicates the end of the main function and returns the value 0 to the operating system, signaling that the program has executed successfully. After successful execution, the output of program will be this. Sum of first n natural numbers. #include iostream. This is a preprocessor directive that tells the compiler to include the standard input/output stream library, iostream, in the program. The iostream library allows you to use the cin and cout objects for input and output operations, respectively. Using namespace std. It is the namespace that contains the C++ standard library's components like cout, cin, and others. Int main. The main function is the entry point of the program where execution begins. The return type is int, indicating the program returns an integer value to the operating system, usually 0 to signify successful execution. Int number, sum equals 0. Here, two variables are declared. Number, this integer variable will store the user input, which represents the limit up to which the sum of natural numbers will be calculated. Sum, this integer variable is initialized to 0 and will hold the accumulated sum of numbers from 1 to number. Cout enter a number. The cout object is used to print output to the console. This line prompts the user to enter a number, asking them to input a value for the variable number. Cin number. The cin object is used to take input from the user. The exertion operator is used to extract the input and store it in the variable number. The user is expected to enter an integer value, and this value will be used in the subsequent loop. For int I equals 1, I is less than or equal to number, I++. This is a for loop that runs from 1 to the value entered by the user, stored in number. The loop starts by initializing the variable I to 1. The loop runs as long as the value of I is less than or equal to number. Once I exceeds number, the loop terminates. After each iteration, the value of I is incremented by 1, equivalent to I equals I plus 1. In each iteration, the current value of I is added to the sum variable. This is the core of the program, where the sum of numbers from 1 to number is being calculated. See out sum of first number numbers is sum end L. After the loop completes, after the sum has been calculated, the program prints the result. This cout statement prints the message along with the calculated sum. It first prints the string sum of first followed by the value of number, the user input. Then, it prints numbers is, and the value of sum, which holds the total sum. The endl manipulator is used to insert a new line after the output, ensuring the output is followed by a line break. After successful execution, the output of program will be this. Print multiplication table. Int number. This line declares an integer variable number. This variable will store the number for which the multiplication table will be printed. Cout enter a number for the multiplication table. The cout object is used to output data to the screen. This line prompts the user to enter a number for the multiplication table. The program will display, enter a number for the multiplication table, on the screen. Cin number. The cin object is used to take input from the user. The exertion operator extracts the input value and stores it in the variable number. For int I equals 1, I is less than or equal to 10, I plus plus. This is a for loop that generates and prints the multiplication table of the number entered by the user. The loop starts with I initialized to 1. This will be the first multiplier. The loop will run as long as I is less than or equal to 10. This ensures that the loop will print the multiplication table for numbers from 1 to 10. After each iteration, I is incremented by 1. This means the multiplier will increase from 1 to 10 in each iteration. Body of the loop. This line prints the multiplication result in the format number times I equals result. For example, if the user enters 5, and I equals 1, it will print 5x1 equals 5. If I equals 2, it will print 5x2 equals 10, and so on. The insertion operator is used to stream the values into cout. Number asterisk I calculates the product of the number entered by the user and the current multiplier I. After successful execution, the output of program will be this. Print Fibonacci series. Int n, t1 equals 0, t2 equals 1, next term. Here, 4 variables are declared. N, this integer variable stores the number of terms that the user wants to see in the Fibonacci sequence. T1 equals 0, this variable represents the first term of the Fibonacci sequence. It is initialized to 0, the first number of the Fibonacci series. T2 equals 1, this variable represents the second term of the Fibonacci sequence. It is initialized to 1, the second number of the Fibonacci series. Next term, this variable will be used to store the sum of T1 and T2 in each iteration, which is the next term in the Fibonacci sequence. Cout enter the number of terms. The cout object is used to print output to the screen. This line prompts the user with the message enter the number of terms, to enter how many terms of the Fibonacci series they want to generate. Cin n. The cin object takes the input from the user. The exertion operator extracts the input value and stores it in the variable n. This value represents the number of terms of the Fibonacci sequence that the user wants to generate. For int I equals 1, I is less than or equal to n, I plus plus. This is a for loop that generates the Fibonacci series and prints the terms one by one. The loop begins with I equals 1, meaning the first term will be printed first. The loop runs as long as I is less than or equal to the number n, which the user entered. This ensures the loop runs exactly n times, printing the Fibonacci sequence for the desired number of terms. After each iteration, I is incremented by 1. This controls how many terms are printed and ensures the loop will eventually stop once it reaches n. Body of the loop. Cout T1, this line prints the current value of T1, the first term of the Fibonacci sequence. Initially, T1 equals 0, so it will print 0 on the first iteration. Next term equals T1 plus T2, this calculates the next term in the Fibonacci series by adding T1, the first term, and T2, the second term. This sum is stored in next term. T1 equals T2, the value of T1 is updated to be the current value of T2. This step shifts the sequence forward because the next value of the Fibonacci series will be T2. T2 equals next term, the value of T2 is updated to be the value stored in next term. This makes T2 the next term in the sequence for the next iteration. The Fibonacci sequence starts with 0 and 1. The next terms are obtained by summing the last two terms. First term, 0. Second term, 1. Third term, 0 plus 1 equals 1. Fourth term, 1 plus 1 equals 2. Fifth term, 1 plus 2 equals 3. Sixth term, 2 plus 3 equals 5. Seventh term, 3 plus 5 equals 8. After successful execution, the output of program will be this. Print hello world 5 times. 4, int I equals 1, I is less than or equal to 5, I plus plus. This is a for loop that will execute the code inside the curly braces multiple times, 5 times in this case. The loop starts with I initialized to 1. The loop runs as long as I is less than or equal to 5. This ensures that the loop will execute 5 times, printing the message hello world 5 times. After each iteration, I is incremented by 1. This ensures that after the first iteration, I equals 1, the next iteration will have I equals 2, and so on, until I exceeds 5. Body of the loop. The cout object is used to output the string hello world to the screen. The exertion operator is used to stream the string into the cout object. The endl outputs a new line after the message, meaning that each hello world will be printed on a new line. After successful execution, the output of program will be this. Print even numbers from 1 to 20. 4, int I equals 2, I is less than or equal to 20, I plus equals 2. This is a for loop that executes the code inside its body multiple times, in this case, for a specific range of numbers. The loop begins with I initialized to 2, which means the first number printed will be 2. The loop will continue to run as long as I is less than or equal to 20. This ensures that the loop will print numbers from 2 up to 20, inclusive. After each iteration, the value of I is increased by 2. This means the loop will print every second number, starting from 2. Body of the loop. The cout statement prints the current value of I. The exertion operator is used to send the value of I to the cout object, which displays it on the screen. In each iteration of the loop, the current value of I is printed with a space after it. The value of I is incremented by 2, meaning that the next number printed will be the next even number. The loop stops once I exceeds 20, after printing 20. After successful execution, the output of program will be this. Print square of numbers from 1 to 10. 4, int I equals 1, I is less than or equal to 10, I plus plus. This is a for loop. It is used to repeat a block of code a specific number of times. The loop starts with I initialized to 1. This means the first iteration will start with I equals 1. The loop will continue to execute as long as I is less than or equal to 10. So, the loop will execute 10 times in total. After each iteration of the loop, I is incremented by 1, I plus plus means I equals I plus 1. This means the loop will proceed with I equals 1, I equals 2, I equals 3, and so on, up to I equals 10. Inside the loop body, this line outputs the square of the current value of I. Square of, this is a string literal that will be printed to the console. It serves as a label to explain the output. I, this is the current value of the loop variable I. In each iteration, I takes the values from 1 to 10. Is, another string literal, providing the word is between the value of I and its square. I asterisk I, this calculates the square of I. The value of I is multiplied by itself, example if I equals 2, I asterisk I equals 4. And L, this is a manipulator that adds a new line after the output. It ensures that each result is printed on a new line. For example, during the first iteration where I equals 1, the program will print square of 1 is 1. In each iteration of the loop, the program prints the square of the current value of I along with a description. The loop runs 10 times, printing the squares of numbers from 1 to 10. After successful execution, the output of program will be this. Print the characters of your name. String name. This line declares a variable name of type string, which will be used to store the user's input. The string type can hold sequences of characters, text, such as a name. Cout enter your name. This line prints the message enter your name, to the console. It uses cout, character output, to display the prompt for the user. In name. This line takes the user's input and stores it in the name variable. For, int I equals 0, I is less than name.length, I++. This is a for loop that iterates through each character of the string name. The loop starts with I equals 0, so it begins at the first character of the string. I is less than name.length, the loop continues as long as I is less than the length of the string, name.length, gives the total number of characters in the string. This ensures the loop runs for each character in the string. After each iteration, I is incremented by 1, the loop moves to the next character. Body of the loop, the line cout name at index I and L prints the current character of name at index I followed by a new line, and L, so each character appears on a new line. For each iteration, the loop prints the character at the current index name at index I. The loop continues until I reaches the length of the string, it prints each character of the name. After successful execution, the output of program will be this. Thank you and happy coding.